Welcome to today's podcast. I'm your host, Ron Ovitt. Today we're going to be talking about striving toward maturity. Striving toward maturity. Maturity is a natural progression in life. It's where we move from the simple to the more complex. It's a process of growth that we can see in almost every aspect of life. Emotionally, socially, physically, spiritually. The goal is to grow and mature. Emotionally, we should be growing as well. Now that's nice in a perfect world, right? But we don't live there. We don't live in a perfect world. I often say in our classes when I teach, there's no perfect people allowed here. And that's, I never have a problem with that. There are no perfect people. Often there are roadblocks to our maturity. And we want to consider that today as we look at emotional maturity. And those roadblocks are what we call arrested development. Now the term arrested development has been around for over 200 years. Today in psychology, it's used for any person who has not matured in a certain emotional area but is stuck at a younger age. For example, when you see two grown men out there fighting with each other, yelling and screaming, do they really look like they're 40 years old, or do they look like they're 7 or 8? Yeah, that's that immature part of us that overreacts. We've had that arrested development. Something triggered us, put us back in that frame of mind, if you will. For example, you may be good in some areas of emotions and yet not in the others. You may be mature when it comes to anger, but not mature when it comes to sadness. You may be mature, for example, with fear, and yet not be mature in other areas. In their book, The Complex PTSD Workbook, the authors talk about the different effects that childhood trauma has on us. And they said this: trauma often arises out of interactions that occur in the first years of life. Sometimes the trauma begins within the first months of being born. Such early childhood memories are not like typical memories that occur later in life. You may not have images or a clear story. Instead, you might experience emotions without understanding why, or even physical sensations of unknown origins. Growing up afraid has ramifications on all aspects of development: cognitive, emotional, and physical. The cost of childhood trauma can persist into adulthood until you find sufficient support to heal your past. And so they talk about this experience, this arrested development. It's usually around trauma. Now, it doesn't have to be trauma with a capital T, like a horrible abuse, but it could be trauma with a small t. Maybe something wasn't done that should have been done. Not just something done to you that should have never been done. And so there's different kinds of traumas, and this can arrest us in our development. And I thought the authors were accurate, that sometimes what happens is all of a sudden we're responding to something and we're not sure why. We're feeling it in our body or reacting. And these are called implicit memories. Implicit, out of awareness. And that's because the part of our memory system that's recording it, if you will, isn't the hippocampus, which does your normal kind of recording. But when trauma comes, cortisol is pumping through the body. That cortisol shuts down, if you will, the hippocampus, and the amygdala, the limbic part of our brain, is there for our protection. It's going to look at all the sensations and say, boy, I'm going to flag these. That look on the face, right? That tone of voice, that body proximity, the words that were said, those kind of things that carry emotion are going to be triggered. So the next time we'll know. It's called predictive coding. Now the authors continue. They said the most common experiences that happen then out of this trauma, these immature things, are cognitive distortions, right? That's inaccurate beliefs about ourselves, others, in the world. There's emotional distress, which is this frequent feeling of being overwhelmed, anxiety, helplessness, hopelessness, despair, deep loneliness, shame, unfairness, injustice, depression, suicidal thoughts. They're often triggered by social loss or abandonment or disconnection. Have you ever experienced that? Those are the kind of things, that social loss or abandonment, disconnection, they can trigger us. They go on to say uncomfortable body sensations in which psychological distress presents in the form of physical symptoms. And so a lot of times we get these physical symptoms, maybe headaches or tension headaches, right? Upset stomach, tenseness in the body, soreness, and there's a lot of physical ailments that come out of this kind of stress that we have emotionally. And then there can be disorientation. That's inaccurate beliefs, emotions, and body sensations. They contribute to a loss of what? Distinction between the past and the present. And so we can be acting out in the present as if we're in the past. And that happens a lot of times. We were humiliated, we were shamed in the past. Yeah, we got all flush and embarrassed and felt bad, and now we remember implicitly the look on the face or the tone of voice. And now when a boss comes to us and says, Ron, I want to talk to you, all of a sudden, are we there in the present, or are we starting to dissociate, if you will, and we're reacting out of the past when we were humiliated? We're anticipating all kinds of conflicts because we're emotionally reacting to something back there. Another one is hypervigilance, and I had that for a majority of my life, and it was like I was on guard all the time. It was like I was at a stoplight, right, and I had a foot on the brake and one foot on the gas, and this constant humming. It was like there was a predator in the room. And this hypervigilance, this high sensitivity to tracking nuances and subtleties in our body language and facial expressions within other people, and that's developed in an attempt to keep ourselves safe. And we did a series here in our podcast on safety, and you may want to go back to that and look at those and consider, am I feeling safe? If not, there's some exercises in the second part of that you might want to experiment with. And then it causes interpersonal problems. Ineffective interpersonal relationships, dynamics, which come in the form of withdrawing, blaming, pushing away, criticizing, unnecessarily, right? Those kind of things can happen. And then even our brain development. We know now that trauma can cause difficulties in executive functioning, and so health problems as well. But the good news is there's hope today. It's not too late to mature. We can grow into maturity as an adult. The goal of maturity is to go from a very dependent baby, right? We're dependent on our caregivers, into a full-grown adult. And unfortunately, usually we think of this maturity then as going from dependent to independent. But that's not really where we should be as human beings. We weren't made to be totally independent. We're interdependent, right? We need fellowship. We need others. And so we don't want to necessarily be independent. We're social beings. And maturity is about living socially and emotionally with others. We're to be an adult that lives in community with other adults in interdependence. We are social beings. And maturity is more about living socially and emotionally with others. And so we want to mature in that way. Now, granted, much of the maturity is learning to take care of ourselves. And it's about accepting responsibility and fulfilling our obligations. In that respect, we kind of are independent. We have to do that for ourselves. No one can mature for us. We have to do it. We need to be responsible, but as social beings, maturity is more about relationships and handling the day-to-day struggle with life's pressures and emotions. In this respect, we go from being a child that handles people, pressure, and emotions immaturely to an adult that deals with this very differently. To overcome immaturity, we need to reparent ourselves. We need to have others who are mature love us and mentor us and help us with the reparenting process. And I go into reparenting a lot in my class that I have on emotional resilience, and you can go to my YouTube channel, Ron Ovitt YouTube channel, and look under playlists and look for the emotional resilience class. And if you scroll down, I think it might be lesson 22 or so, look in there, you'll see a series on reparenting. And I really think you'll gain a lot from that. We need to be reparented by others, by ourselves, and by God. And He helps us mature. Now, we each have maturity needs. We have maturity needs. And as a child, our needs are at different stages of development are different. But if these needs are met at one stage, then we move on to the other in maturity. And again, if they're not, then we're arrested, if you will, in that development. But it's not too late. As an adult, we can do these things. And here's the good news. We can do them faster. We don't have to go through kindergarten, through, high school to mature. We can do it much faster because our prefrontal cortex, that rational part of our brain, is online now. And we can use that to mature. So don't give up. Don't despair. There's hope today. You can, and I can. We can mature. Now, here's some needs that I'm going to read, and I'll have them listed out for you, and you can get it in the notes, and you can always email me at ron@empowerministry.org and ask for maturity needs, and I'll be happy to send them to you. But here's some needs, and I want to ask yourself, where am I on the scale of 1 to 5? 1, I don't experience this. 5, I'm fine. I'm doing really good. This is very true for me. So let's look at that. Am I safe and secure with those that I love and trust? Where are you? That's not true for me, or it's very true for me. A 1 to 5. And stay away from 3s, okay? It's either a 1, a 2, a 2 plus, or a 4 or 5, a 4 minus. But 3s are too easy, right? We want to commit here. There's no shame in this. We want to be able to mature. And if we don't acknowledge some areas of immaturity, how are we going to ever mature? How about this one? Love is constant, unconditional, and always there for me no matter what. I know I would have put a 1 on that for sure. It wasn't that I went around feeling that people hated me. I just felt unlovable. And I had to perform. For me, love was conditional. And I had to perform. It was that imposter, right, syndrome, that if people only knew the real me. Where are you on that? How about this? I am loved, special, valued, and unique. Do you feel that way? Are you a 1? No, I don't, not at all. 2, yeah, sometimes. 3, yeah. 4, yeah, I do. Or 5, yeah, all the time. I feel there's no problem there. Or I can return to peace and joy from painful emotions. I have resilience. I can bounce back. Do you bounce back pretty regularly? I had someone come to my class and said, when I first started this class, it would take me days, sometimes a week, to get over some of the things that bother me. Now I'm doing it in hours. And I thought that was so cool to see that they were able to bounce back much quicker than they were before. And how about this? I belong and am connected to others in a special way. Are you isolating? Do you just kind of stand in the back when you go somewhere? Do you get all anxious and worried about meeting other people? Or are you able to meet with people and connect and feel connected with them in a special way? Maybe never. Maybe that's a 1. Or maybe for you it's a 3 or a 4. Maybe it's a 5. Where are you on that? And how about this? I am loved for who I am without having to perform. I already told you where I would have rated myself. Today, thank the Lord, I've worked on these things, and I feel that God loves me unconditionally. I know my wife loves me unconditionally. Doesn't give me an excuse to misbehave or do things wrong. But the love isn't based on my performance. It's based on the fact that in their eyes, I am lovable. You see the difference? Where are you? I have a bond with our Creator in the life and the Spirit. Now, I have people from around the world watching these things, and not everyone that watches, knows much about Christianity or much about God, and I invite you to consider Him. I always talk about God in the different videos I do, and I encourage you to have a relationship with Him. Jesus came to die on the cross so we could have a relationship with God. He is love, and He has unconditional love for us, and you're going to find acceptance there. You're going to find love there. You're going to find peace with Him. The Holy Spirit will take residence in your life when you become born again. So I invite you to consider really knowing Him as your personal Savior and having a relationship. And if you want to know more about that, you can see the link below, and I want to know God, or you can just go ahead and put that in the comments, and I'll be happy to send you some materials. And how about this? I need a purpose, meaning, and freedom to use the strengths for good. Are you using your strengths? In this society, we're often geared, to use our weaknesses. You don't do good math, you need a remedial course, right? What about working with our strengths? That's like teaching a dog to swim better and a duck to run. Why aren't we teaching a dog to run better and a duck to swim better? Work with our strengths. You have strengths, and you should rejoice in those and work on those and mature in those areas. How about this one? I know it's never too late to have loving, caring, nurturing relationships. That's resilience, right? Sometimes we do things. We have what Daniel Siegel calls rupture. We rupture in a relationship, but then do we repair it? Part of maturity is having rupture and repairing. And so we know that it's never too late. We can bounce back and have those loving, caring, nurturing, repaired, if you will, relationships. And how about this? I have changed my immature beliefs from a traumatized child to those of an empowered, loved, mature adult. And my friend, that's huge. And if you're struggling with trauma from the past and you feel like, you're still traumatized, then get some help. Find someone that can counsel you, someone that knows a lot about trauma and can help you work through that. Because my friend, you're worth it. You should feel empowered, loved, and mature as an adult. That's our goal for you, and it's within your grasp, so get help if you need it. Now, the next time we get together, we're going to talk about maturity traits and maturity habits. You're not going to want to miss that. Go back through this one again if you have to. Go down and look in the comments. You'll see the different areas that you can rate yourself. And then ask yourself, am I willing to put in the work it's going to take to change? Am I willing to mature in these areas? If you need to, ask someone else that loves you if they can rate you on these things. But maturity is something each one of us can grasp. And so next time we'll be looking at traits and habits. So come back for that one. Subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell so you won't miss any of our videos. Join our Patreon partners. These are people that contribute a modest fee each month to help with the cost of producing our podcast. And then tell others, share it with others. And if you would like to learn about other teachings, check out our other playlists on Ron Ovitt YouTube channel. And so I want to thank you for joining us. We're excited about what we're doing. And if you have any ideas that you would like to see covered, go ahead and comment or email me at ron@empowerministry.org. That's ron@empowerministry.org.